All with us.
Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Bender,
Here.
Ermeling,
Here.
Binell,
Here.
Simmons,
Here.
Zuka.
Here. Lady, thank you. Approve the minutes of previous meeting, December 21st. What's your pleasure?
I move to approve.
Motion by Bender,
Second.
second by Simmons. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Public comments from the members here or from Zoom? Is there anyone on? No one on? All right, thank you. Acknowledge work products, there is none. Educational presentations and reports, there isn't any. Policy, discussion and possible recommendation on requesting proposals for assessors' services.
The last time we met, I presented an email from our current assessor Greg Schmidt, really recommending that we would do a full assessment walkthrough. It's been a long time since the village had a full assessment. In 2007, we did more of a market, and there's another adjustment going through, it was around 2010. But we haven't gone through the houses for a long time. Greg was gonna come speak to us in January. I got an email the week before our meeting saying that he no longer could do that and that he recommends just doing a market adjustment. So instead of bringing him, so that was my feelings also. I mean, that previous email, he was really pushing, really thought it was the best for our taxpayers to get a full reassessment walkthrough, which I'm very supportive of that, and that he changed his tone just a little disappointed. And I'm like, well, no, it's not worth for you to come then. So we delayed it, and now we are here. We have Greg scheduled to the end of 2022, so he's going to be doing our regular assessment stuff for us. But then we're bringing up, what do we do with what we're at? Because at this point, if you go to the next page, I got the assessment ratios. Technically, we got like 3 or 4 years yet. For the state, that says when an average assessment ratio is considerably above or below 100% or 0.1, a community reassessment may be forthcoming. State law requires average assessment ratios be within 10% of market value. If you look down, I have the assessment ratios by year on that next sheet. And it shows in 2018-19, we're at 95.6, 19-20 at 90, and 2021 at 86. So we did drop below that 10% threshold, meaning that we now need to eventually decide what to do and see if the trend continues. I'm really concerned that the trend will continue. Obviously, part of the assessment ratio is determined upon sales. We all know how house prices are right now. They're supply and demand, house prices are up. Interest rates are low, people are moving around, and there's not a lot of places to move to. So house prices are up. My concern is that 86% is gonna drop even further. I did take a look at the Marathon County as a whole, because I said that Greg is busy doing others right now. Well, I pulled up Marathon County, and there's not a single one that's above 1%.
That's what?
About what?
That's above 1%, or above 100%, I should say. I was gonna share my screen. Can I share my screen, Nate? There we go. Okay. So this is what I got from the state website. The state has done to other municipalities as it has done to us, which is increase the equalized values across Marathon County. There's a ton that are below the 0.9 threshold that are gonna be looking and on the countdown for a reassessment. With that being said, I think we need to move faster than slower to decide what do we wanna do and how are we gonna get back into compliance with the state. I would like to recommend that we do an RFP for a full reassessment. I think that would be the best for the village taxpayers. One of the main concerns is, is everyone being assessed equitable right now? And because we have not had a full walkthrough for so many years, I don't know if I could say that everyone is being taxed fairly. In that time, we've had a lot of recessions. The gap between the haves and haves not has changed. Those that are able to do and improve the house have done that. And then others, the roof is falling off. So I think that's something that we need to consider when we are looking for getting back to in compliance with the state requirements and choosing how we want to do that. A prime example is recently there was a house near me that went up. The house back when it was originally built / bought was probably closer to 400,000. The people did a couple $100,000 in renovations. They're selling it for $750,000. We looked on Evolve, there were no building permits. This type of renovation would never have been caught by our assessor, but the value in that house increased $200,000. That's the type of improvements that are only gonna be caught when somebody goes and walks through those houses. And considering we haven't done that type of work for a long time, I think it'd be worthwhile having somebody do that. But it's gonna cost a lot of money, and I guess that's where we need to be a little cautious doing that. So I'm curious what thoughts of the committee are.
I remember when we talked about this, I don't remember how many years ago it was, 2 or 3 years ago. The cost benefit, as far as maybe not the equity to the taxpayer, but as far as the benefit to the village of Weston, as far as collecting more taxes, likely wasn't there per se, I mean, it might not be equitable, but the benefit to the village didn't seem to outweigh the cost at the time when we talked about it last time, once we decided not to do it. So I guess that's my, I don't know. I don't know, does it really make sense? I can't remember what the quotes were on how much that was gonna cost. Do you have any idea of what those were?
At the time, it was like closer to 100,000.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, that was roughly $100,000 that we were talking. And the thought was that it was going to take several years to recoup that additional expense at that time. I don't know, you tell me if I'm wrong, but with the reassessment, basically you're turning around and leveling the playing level for everybody and taking whatever that value is and dividing it by our budget, and then that's what our new rate will be, more or less. Am I correct or am I not?
Pretty much, you're gonna take, take the allowable levy.
Right.
Yeah, re-proportionate based on the new assessed values. If there is new, like, for example, that house that I was talking about, if the assessor goes in and finds a lot of new value,
Right.
that could be part of an allowable increase.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly how that works. We'd have to talk to the assessor regarding that.
Yeah, because only that portion would be the amount that we would actually gain, I guess is what it amounts to.
Right.
As new value is concerned.
Well, I guess my point is, we need to do something But eventually, we need to be more fair to all taxpayers.
Right.
Right now, it's not there. I remember in 2010 going through, we had to slash prices. So the assessor went to the higher cost subdivision and slashed all the land prices. Arbitrarily just, oh, that one was 40,000, it was now 20. I mean, that's the type of adjustment we did in the past. Was that fair? That probably wasn't fair. I mean, how can someone say, well, just because that one's now assessed 40 and because the $20,000 lots, well, you don't want to slash them to 10, so you pick the 41 and slash it to 20 because that's more reasonable. I'm sure there was a logic to it, but at the time when I was required to do the adjustments in the system, I didn't think that was fair.
Can I just say?
Sure.
So in 10, that's kind of when we had that drop, right? 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there.
Right.
All right, so I was not on the board, first of all, okay, so I wanna make sure that's clear. But I remember asking Greg why all the river property went in half. The land, not the buildings, but the land.
Mhm.
And that's when it was discovered that I was paying a lot more, cause they were charging me for this water flow that goes into the neighborhood. And he said I had an acre and I only had a half acre, but anyway, but I questioned why the value of the land went in half for all of these. And then I've got 48 feet, everybody else has 150. And he said because everything went down. But actually, now that makes more sense. That this was something that he could immediately affect and not be a 10 to a 5, but get a bigger value from because at the time it was like 78 or 80.
Right.
And we went down to 50, now we're back up, but I couldn't understand what was going on. But then I also know that the value of my house went down because it was like a recession. And there was a lot of houses for sale, people weren't buying, but now, I mean, it's just crazy right now. But then he moved it.
Well, there was a time that the equalized did dip because we were over 100 and some percent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were, whatever.
110.
Right, I remember that.
At this time, yeah.
So can I just dovetail on that and then I'll be quiet, but what is the percentage when you said, we'll have some increases and we'll have some decreases? Is there a rule of thumb on what that percentage is? Because I think that is exactly what we talked about. I mean, when Terry brought it up on how yes, it could be equitable, but we're not gonna get our money back either. And so I would think that now we'll get more that'll be going up versus less going down, I would think.
Right.
Because I think the values are higher, and there's no market, I mean, there's no inventory of houses. I mean, my God, if they tell you it's worth, 350, definitely put 390 on it. Cause you can always go down, you can't go up. But anyway, I didn't know if there was a rule of thumb.
But doesn't it take usually about 2 years to complete an assessment?
It
Takes
depends.
3.
So Greg is a single person.
Yeah.
The other companies have multiple assessors that would be doing it. I mean, that's why it's worth the bid out to see what they could do it for. Unfortunately, as I showed you before, there's a lot in the same boat as us that are gonna need something done to go back into compliance to state statutes.
Well, I just, at this point, the way everything is, I just can't see the village being able to swing that kind of money and not really getting a big return on it. I mean, at this point, I think we need to do it. I'm just not sure, we've got, if we did a across the board thing, we would, bring it up. But I'm considering whether or not this is the year to do it, I guess is.
I agree.
No year is good, but we've got so much going on and with the economy and everything else, I really question how much you can hit the taxpayer.
Would our intent be to send it out in like mid 2022 at this point?
Yeah,
Be a while. How long did it, if I can say, how long did it take Greg to do remote? I thought he said 3 years.
It did take the
3, yeah.
They've got fewer parcels too.
Right.
So is that why he,
Go ahead.
oh,
is that
good.
why he backed, is that why Did he ever say why he's back out?
Because he signed contracts with others
Okay, that's
for reassessment.
So the other part that we're looking at is that with all of the other municipalities looking at this, some of them are in worse condition than we are as far as percentage is concerned. The question is, if we wait and we wait on the bidding, are we going to then be paying a premium because everybody's gonna be asking for it at the same time?
I guess that was one of my concerns too. I was hoping to jump ahead.
Because the dollar amount that Greg had quoted us was.
I don't know if he'll honor that yet. We,
Well, right, but that was at quite a discount from what,
it was.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he said he's pretty well. Not gonna be.
He
pretty
would be
much
able to do the
himself.
market adjustment for us.
Market adjustment, but he's not, he said he doesn't have time to do
No,
the walkthrough.
he could not do this.
So how much would if we would do the market adjustment, and do another, I guess, something different that would get us to the same place as far, in regards to getting us in compliance with the law? How much, do you have any idea of what the cost of that was, or didn't he say?
I thought it was like 70.
yeah, it was 80, yeah.
It
And then how much was his full reassessment?
was like 100,000 a year.
Okay, so 3.
Yeah. A year.
Yes.
I thought it was. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was,
Last year's.
I know it was 100,000, but I don't know for what period of time, or et cetera, at this point. That's too long ago to remember, I guess.
Question. Well, Jessica, what happens if our ratio stays too low for too long? Do we get penalized somehow for state shared revenues or things
No,
like
the
that?
state will reassess you.
Pardon?
The state reassesses.
And they'll
Oh,
bill
the
us.
state
And they'll
takes care of
bill
it
you.
for us.
And they bill
Okay.
you, yeah.
Yeah,
And then you have, and they'll do just a, I'm assuming just a percentage adjustment.
I'm not sure about that one. I wouldn't say that.
I think it's in the document that you have.
I think so too. Well, that was in that other document we were looking at.
I don't know. They would be contracting somebody to do it for them because they don't have enough. Their department for assessment and valuation is not big enough to turn around and start doing this for municipalities.
That says if a municipality is non-compliant after, excuse me, after 4 consecutive years, the TOR, voice is going. The DOR must notify the municipality of its non-compliance. DOR issues a municipality a second non-compliance notice after 5 consecutive years and issues an order for supervised assessment after 6 consecutive years of non-compliance.
So you can push it a long ways is what
Yes.
it amounts to.
Yes. I know we were talking before, well, what happens to get a, so yeah, you would get, if you're in the middle of a reassessment, it would be okay to let it go knowing that you're gonna be in compliance before the 6th year or 7th year.
So in theory, at this point, we're at what, 86 or whatever? And if you waited, and the thought would be, at least a year and then went out for bidding, which would mean that it probably wouldn't start till 23. That's what you'd be looking at.
The problem is we waited too long. We should have done a full walkthrough several years ago. We're pushing it down the road and it's not fair to people to push it another 10 years. Cause you get those people that bought this $700,000 house that are gonna be paying for a $400,000 house. That's the equity between the neighbors. It's not right. And there is never gonna be a time where we're gonna get money back for this expense. It's a taxpayer service that we are providing of making everyone more equal. It's not something we're gonna get paid back for. So eventually we'll have to take the bullet, hopefully.
I just have a question. So how does this work, like, since we pay like the school district tax, like if we're at 86% and say Rothschild's Westfield. So does that impact that at all or no?
No.
No, okay.
Well, when the school district last year, 2 years ago, said that, oh, everybody's taxes are dropping. And I actually emailed them and said, you know, you cannot send out flyers saying everybody's taxes are dropping. The Village of Weston taxpayers are gonna see a tax increase because our assessment ratio
Right, right.
equalized was so,
Is that because we're so low and say like if Rothschild was at 100% and we were at 86%?
Right.
So I mean, in a sense, if we equal this out, our taxpayers should see perhaps a savings overall, because it would, no?
no.
Yes and no, but remember, the school district brings it up to equalized value. We're all the same equalized value, we are just not the same as an assessed value.
Here's another thing to think about, maybe isn't the right time for a full reassessment. Red Mountain had a full reassessment. And right now they're not very happy because they are in the same boat as us. If you see up on the screen, they're at 0.95. They dropped quite a bit after their full reassessment, and if trends continue, they're gonna be needing another reassessment in a few years.
Does not a sale of a house, doesn't the taxes adjust? You know, if the house is being assessed at 4 and it sells for 7, Greg doesn't reassess that?
No,
It's not legal to do that.
Really?
But there are some municipalities that do some adjustments on some of that stuff. But again, you're not supposed to be adjusting it to sales price individual, because not all, it's a one property assessment, not an entire area. That's what they tell you anyway.
Area, and I think that's where they dropped some of the assessments before,
Well, I bought it.
because the whole area was below.
I bought my lot next door to me in 2014. In 2018, I received a little yellow sheet from the village, and it said evaluated for sale price,
Oh,
for purchase price. It doubled in price. And when I talked to Greg, because there was lots down our street on the river that are the same exact thing that were half, we went back down because the lot was worth more to me, obviously, because I live next door.
Right,
But it was labeled right on there for.
right.
But that's where he can't just increase it because your neighbor, because they didn't sell, they're paying cheaper taxes.
Right.
Doesn't make sense, that's not
But-
fair.
I asked that because, you know, just Wally Sparks, who's now gone, bought Forrest Tappy's house. And he couldn't sell that house for 3 years. It just kept coming down 100 grand, and Wally bought that house very cheap. 11 acres, you know, 1,200 feet on the water, big house, big land. And he got readjusted. Cause I asked him, I says, is that gonna get readjusted? And he did. And then now he just sold it, you know, for 300 grand more or more.
He didn't get readjusted
Yeah,
again, did he?
But the doctor that bought it said he will be getting adjusted.
So we bought our house a lot for quite a bit more than it was assessed at. Now we talked to Greg about it and he's like, oh no, it has to be a certain percentage and just
Oh.
let it go.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? Oh, I'm sorry. Lauren?
So as an example, last time we conducted across the board reassessment where nobody walked through the homes. My value of my house went up 46%. I went from 92,000 to 149,000.
Holy,
Wow.
yeah.
And the land alone doubled,
So what happened to your taxes back then, do you remember?
jumped $1,000.
They did jump.
I would say mine did the same, but it was because it wasn't so much, the house went up a little bit, but it was the land, and I have 2 acres of land, and it's very valuable land.
That's very big.
Badly.
So
It's not, but it is.
these days, the levy limits would not really allow stuff. I don't think that we're gonna see the same type of thing. The levy limits were only allowed to increase the levy so much, so what we would see is more of a leveling, equalizing out.
I think he did something where he reassessed almost all the land or something because the land values went up he didn't feel they were equitable.
I know there was a mandate by the state about, I can't remember exactly how many years ago, specifically related to any land that was in, associated with any water of any type. There was a mandate by the state that any of that property had to be reassessed. Because there was such a variation between municipalities and stuff that the state mandated that all of that had to be reassessed, and that was probably 15 years ago.
To go up,
Go up, yes,
which I agree, it should.
you know.
Hey, what is your suggestions? Okay.
Just have a question. Is there harm in going out for an RFP and just seeing options? And, I mean, can you do a contract that far out? Like, could we get into a contract for 2022 if we go out for or 2023 if we were to go out for an RFP this year? Like, to get on the calendar,
I
basically.
probably wouldn't do that.
Okay. Just trying to,
I was thinking of the kind of same thing, could be.
okay.
Trying to get an idea of what it's gonna cost at that point.
Well, yes, that's what, part of the thing with the RFP would have done is see what the cost, but on the other hand, we really just wanna write it out, see what the state does. And we do got some years, and if we go, and with that law, where I was saying if, as long as you're in the process of getting it reevaluated, the state's not gonna penalize you.
Can you do an RFP and not take one? Yes,
You don't have to accept the RFP.
you don't have to.
You don't have
That's what
to.
we did last time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
Well, no, we did the RFP,
Well, for the assessor, I think
Right.
it was at the same time.
Yeah.
Right,
His quote was up 260,000 for the walkthrough and 88,000 for the just reval. So,
280 for 3 years.
260 in compensation. We need at least 3 years, if not 4, to complete.
It's something we just wanna wait out and see what happens? Or do we wanna schedule Greg for that market adjustment
When would you do that?
in his spare time? No, I'll honestly probably around his other contracts because those needs to get done. So
But are we talking 22?
that's something where we'd have to just look at and see what his schedule is. If that's something we wanna pursue, we could contact him and get it on his calendar.
I guess I would try to contact him and see what his timetable would be for something like that. If that pushes us down the road 5 years. If you know what I'm saying, because if it's changing as much as it is,
Yeah,
even with the adjustment up to basically 100%, there's probably going to be, in 5 years,
Right,
you're gonna be at the same point again.
that's true.
that's what I was thinking, like with Red Mountain, they just had it done and
Right.
because the market is
Is jumping as fast.
It's all over the place. Now they gotta almost start thinking about doing it again. And so
Well, the
do
market
we wanna do
adjustment-
it when we're so up and down, you know? I don't know. Okay. What is your recommendation to the board?
My recommendation is to get a price from Greg and a timetable and see if we could, get them on the schedule at that point.
Okay.
Want that in the form of a motion?
Yes, please.
I guess, did we have this recommendation on this?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll go to the board for the next meeting because it's not on the agenda today.
Right.
Yeah, so you motion to recommend.
Recommend
to the
that we
board.
do that, Ralph.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A second, by Ryan? On the question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay, now where else am I here? Now I gotta put my glasses on. There are no ordinances. Future items, next meeting date, Monday, March 15th. At approximately 4:30. Well, it would, is at 4:30, because we don't have the,
We don't have the,
we don't have the other meeting. So it's at 4:30. Any topics for future meetings? Do we want to hear anything on what we found out on the assessor, or? If we have any.
have any information at that
Yeah.
time. The only thing that I'm, on a personal basis, I probably will be gone the 15th of March.
I also might be too.
Say, Ryan.
I might be, yeah.
Ryan
I
might.
could probably get on Zoom, but I might be out of time.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'll be at, like, but supposed to be in California, but.
Okay.
We can always send out the notice, and if you guys can't make it,
Yeah,
I'll go with it.
if we still have three, we still.
yeah, if I can get on. We should be able to get on Zoom, I think.
Just note of that. Remarks from staff?
Currently we're working on year-end. We got a pretty good surplus right now. I got approval from the board to use a lot of those funds to pay down our safer loan. Right now we're looking at, I think of probably around $400,000 surplus. We have some payables out there and we got a receivable out there yet that are unknown. We've got recommendation from this committee to carry over around $80,000 for street work that wasn't done this year to next year. And I'm probably gonna be looking at cutting a check to Safer for around $330 to help pay down our loan. Right now, we owe yet $380-some thousand on that. So that would be really awesome to get that down, so we don't have to worry about levying those additional funds in the future. Cause that's like a $95,000 expense every year that for the next 4 years. And to just pay that down with our surplus funds would provide a great relief on our future budgets. A lot of surplus CARES funds, less street expenses. We saved a lot on salt and just overall is a lot less expenses with the operations going on in the village in 2020.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention, we did get enrolled in the SDC program and we do have access to that now. So I sent out the first batch of letters, I think last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I think I sent like 5 or 6 letters for ones that were 90 days past due. So then we have to wait 30 days after that and then do some research to get the information the state needs in order to be able to pursue those. And then we should be able to start having the state help us collect on those.
Now, do you have to have try to get their social security number?
That or a driver's license number.
Oh, okay,
So the people at SDC gave some recommendations for places where we should be able to get that information. So we might have to pay like a small fee to do like a lookup on a
because I
person.
would say social security numbers are fairly difficult unless you're.
Yeah.
Something.
There's a few different numbers you can use. They have a list of ones that they'll accept for pursuing that.
But
So yeah,
maybe-
that'll be the next
Like
step.
their last 4 digits or something.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Jessica, Jenny? That's good, okay. Committee members, any other than Mike being gone? Okay, nothing? Any announcements? Okay, so I guess we'll have a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
I'll second it.
A motion by Tom, second by Ryan. on the question? Huh?
But,
Did I have it turned around?
yeah, don't worry about it.
That's what, that's the way I thought it was, but then okay, so, motion by Ryan, second by Don. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned at 5:28, 29.